A very good afternoon to you, our lovely grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's mathematical literacy lesson. My name is Mampani Kekana, and remember that this lesson is brought to you by Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with the Saibono Discovery Center. Boys and girls, welcome back after a very long break, even though I know that most of you did not actually have a break. You only had maybe about a week, and then maybe about 2 weeks you were still continuing with your classes. So yeah, but anyway, welcome back to term number 3, which is actually the shortest term if we don't count term number 4. This is actually the shortest term because in 3 weeks or in 4 weeks time, most of you will be starting with the prelim, because it simply means most of the work that was supposed to be covered in grade 12 has been covered. There might be only about 20 or 30% of the work that still need to be covered. So in today's lesson, we are going to look at another section which is supposed to be covered in term number 3. And then, boys and girls, I can promise you that this is a very interesting and a very simple section. That is actually a section where you can score a lot of marks. You can score a lot of marks in this section. So our section, or the section that we are going to focus on today, is instruction and assembly diagrams. Instruction and assembly diagrams. I don't know how many of you have been in a situation where you see a chair, okay, and then when you go to a shop and then all of a sudden you see the chair, it's not assembled. In other words, they give you a chair, they say, but the chair it's in a box, okay, then it's only pieces of a chair, then the chair needs to be assembled. So in today's lesson, we're going to look at such situations where you want to buy an item, but when you get to a shop, they say the item is not assembled. It's only pieces of items that are in the box. So it means you have to take the items that are in the box, and then when you get home, you need to assemble them yourself. Okay, but obviously they're not going to leave it to you like that. When you open the box, you'll find that there's actually a manual which shows instructions or pictures that must be followed in order for you to assemble that item. So that is what we're going to look at. But likely in these days, some of you, because of the modern technology, some of you can still go to the websites, or maybe use your cell phones to Google the instructions and so on. So either way, so maybe if you happen to struggle by using the manual, you can actually just Google, and in most cases, you'll find an information or a video which you can follow to assemble whatever item. So before we look at today subtopic or today's section, let us look at what you need to know, or what you know about this lesson already, what you know and what you don't know. Okay, so we are going to do a very quick pre-assessment or pre-activity. So in this case, we have to match column A and B. Match column A and B, and then you can see that under column A, we've got the following words. We've got assemble, we've got assembling instructions, we've got assembly diagram, we've got assemble order, and we also have unassembled. So for all these terminologies, there are possible explanations under column B. So you just need to match. You just need to check which explanation matches the terminology under column A. Like for instance, the first one, let us look at this one. It's assemble. Okay. Now let us look at the possible explanation of the word assemble. The first one is A, not yet put together or assembled. They indicate the sequence in which parts should be assembled. The written instructions delivered together with an equipment describing how the equipment is to be assembled. And then D is fit together the separate components, parts of a machine or other object. So assemble matches with this explanation. D, it means fit with, fit together the separate components, parts of a machine or other objects. So in this case, we'll say A or number one matches with D. Okay, number one matches with D. Then when we go to the number two, we look at assembling instructions. Assembling instructions is the written instructions delivered together with equipment describing how the equipment is to be assembled. In other words, it's a manual that is being delivered with an equipment or the items of the equipment. So for number two matches with C. Number two matches with capital C and the column B. And then the third one is assembly diagram. If you look at number three, assembly diagram, the possible explanation, it's E, where it shows an assembly diagram is a technical drawing that shows how multiple parts fit together to form a complete product. So number three, the terminology of number three under column A matches with number E, okay, or letter E. So letter E is the explanation for terminology number three under column A. And then number four, it's assembly order. Okay, oh, sorry, assemble order. Let us look at the possible explanation. Okay, the assemble order is they indicate the sequence in which parts should be assembled. They indicate the sequence in which parts should be assembled. So in other words, number four, the terminology for number four is or matches with the explanation of B. So they indicate the sequence in which parts should be assembled. And then number five is unassembled. Unassembled means not yet put together or assembled. Not yet put together or assembled. So terminology number five matches with the explanation of letter A under column B. Okay, so it means these are the most important terminologies or explanations that you need to know before we start our lesson. Okay, so this was just a pre-assessment. It was just to check if you can match the terminologies that are given with their relevant explanations under column B. Okay, so that is that in terms of the pre-assessment. I hope you all understand the terminologies and their explanations under column B. Okay, now the pre-knowledge. Okay, the pre-knowledge, this is what you learned in grade 10 and also in grade 11. So in grade 12, we just refreshing your memory. You just want to check if you still remember this, or maybe you know this under general knowledge. So the pre-knowledge is you must be able to use instruction or assembly diagrams containing weights. Okay, so if you are given instructions or you are given assembly diagrams, but they are explained in weights, or they are explained in the form of pictures, and then in most cases, they are found in manuals. So you must be able or you must know how to use instruction, assembly diagrams containing weights or pictures. So it can either be in the form of weights or they can be in the form of pictures or they can be in both format, and they are found in manuals. I don't know how many of you know about how to wire a plug. Okay, like in this case, we know that if you've got a plug and then you've got three wires there, you've got the blue one, you've got the yellow one, and you also have a brown one. Okay, so if you've got a manual, you'll know exactly, or the manual will clearly indicate which color must go where. So in this case, you can see that you've got three screws there, so you know which one must go where. So in this case, it clearly indicates that when you open the plug, then you know that the brown one will go to the right hand side, and then the blue one will go to the left hand side, and then there's the green one. So you can't just attach any color anywhere. So it's very important that the color of the wire goes to the correct screw. So that is one example. That is one example about wiring a plug. Okay, and then another pre-knowledge is you must be able to use instructions or assembly diagrams containing ways or pictures found in manuals to assemble plastic models. Okay, plastic models. So like in this case, you can see that there is a model of a house. Okay, there's a model of a house. It came with different pieces, but eventually it was assembled to show the model of a house. So in this case, it means the manual will come with instructions clearly indicating what must be done first, and so on. And then again, use instruction assembly diagrams containing words or pictures found in manuals. But this one, you'll find an unassembled wooden furniture unit, or maybe that office chair that comes with pieces being in the box, and then now we need to assemble them to have a chair. So in this case, is unassembled wooden furniture unit, or any chair that comes in pieces in a box, and then there will be a manual clearly indicating uh, what processes must be followed, or in which order must these pieces be assembled. Okay, then use instruction or assembly diagram containing words or pictures found in manuals for cell phones. Okay, e.g., installing a battery. Okay, I know that these days most of the cell phones come with the battery already being installed. Okay, but the SIM card, it's a different story, because the SIM card you need to insert the SIM card, but there's also a procedure. There's also a procedure that must be followed in order for the SIM card to be inserted in the cell phone. So it will also come with the manual, and then you must read the manual so that you can clearly know um, how to insert the SIM card. Okay, then again, you must also be able to use instruction or assembly diagrams containing words or pictures found in electrical appliances. Okay, so when you connect electrical appliances, you know that maybe if they bought a decoder, then you need to connect it on a TV and so on. There's a manual that you can use. So that is just one example that we can think of. So in this case, it's electrical appliances that require individual components to be connected. If you want to connect electrical appliances, there's also a manual that can be used. Okay, then again, children's toys, including Lego type kits, you know, the Legos. So there's also a manual. You can also get a manual uh, that can be used to assemble Legos for the children. So that is another pre-knowledge. Okay, so we had looked at the pre-knowledge, and that is exactly what you should have done in grade 10 and grade 11. But actually, it is still the same thing in grade 12. There's no difference. It's just a matter of following instructions to assemble items. So in today's lesson, we're going to look at the following. We're going to look at, actually at the end of this lesson, you should be able to use instruction, assembly diagrams containing words or pictures, okay? And then you must be able to complete tasks using instructions, pictures given, or explain what the instruction mean and represent. You must be able to demonstrate an understanding of the symbols or notations used on assembly diagrams. You must also be able to learn how to follow instructions when assembling a unit. Okay, So the terminologies is just the method of confirming the terminologies as we discuss them under the pre-assessment. We're going to work with the 2D models, and we also have the 3D models, which is a three-dimensional construction of a real-life object. And then we also have the terminology assemble, which means put together an item following a set of given instructions or uh, annotated diagram. Sorry. So put together an item following a set of given instruction or an annotated diagram. And then the third one is assembly diagram, which is a labeled picture that explains in detail how we must put together an item. And we also have instruction diagram, which is used drawings to explain, or which uses drawings to explain step by step how to complete a task. Okay, so let us look at some of the activities taken from the previous question papers. Boys and girls, you will see how easy these questions are. You will see these questions are very easy. So it means in the upcoming examination, you should also expect this type of questions, and you should be able to answer all of them, because this type of question or the questions under this subtopic are actually very easy. So this activity was taken from the Eastern Cape, paper 1, grade 11, 2024. It studied the list of items below that are needed to assemble an office chair and answer the questions that follow. So what is very important in this type of questions is whenever you're given a picture or you're given items or you are given different parts, it's very important that you study the given parts. Please make sure that you study them thoroughly, so that you don't miss anything when they ask you a question. So these are the different parts that are given. Study the list of items below that are needed to assemble an office chair, and the parts are given there. The parts are indicated. Number 1.1, identify the number of casters, that is wheels, needed to assemble the office chair. Okay, identify the number of casters, wheels, needed to assemble the office chair. So in this case, we need to check the parts are indicated and then also the names. Okay, so for this one, you can see the number 8 times 5. So it's indicated the casters, and then that is times 5. So in this case, the number is just 5. Okay, so it's very easy. There's a question and the answers are clearly indicated on the picture. Identify the number of wheels needed to assemble the office chair. And then 1.2 is name the tool that will be used to tighten the bolts and washers. Okay, name the tool that will be used to tighten the bolts and washers. So we have to look on the picture. Okay, so for this one, which one do you think it's a tool? So these are the parts, then this one is a tool. Okay, so a tool, the name of the tool is Allen key. So there's Allen key, that is the name of the tool that will be used to tighten the bolts and washers. You can see the answer is there on the picture. And then number 1.3, list different types of bolts and washers needed for the backrest. List the different types of bolts and washers needed for the backrest. So if we look at this, you can see that we've got bolts and washers. So it's number 7, 8, 9. Okay, we've got number 7, number 8, and number 9. So these are the bolts and washers. But you can see that even though all of them, this is for armrest, and this is for backrest, and this one is also for backrest. But if you look at the sizes are not the same. The sizes are not the same. If you look at this one, it says M, and then it's 8 by 22 millimeters. This one it's 8 by 15 millimeters, and this one is 5 by 18 millimeters. So when they say list the different types of bolts and washers needed for the bracket, they're actually referring to the sizes that are indicated there. So the first one is M8 times 22 millimeters. That is the first size. The next one is M8 multiplied by, or M8 times 15 millimeters. Okay, 8 by 22 millimeters. That is actually how we're supposed to read it. And this one is 8 by 15 millimeters. And then the next one is M5 by 18 millimeters. These are just the sizes. So M8 by 22 millimeters, M8 by 15 millimeters, and then M5 by 18 millimeters. You can see by looking at the dimensions there that the sizes are not the same. So that was question number 1.3. Okay, then question, or the next activity is activity 2, which was taken from Northern Cape paper 1. That was prelim 2024. The information is James makes a small wooden chair. The chair supports are called props. The picture alongside shows a diagram of all the parts, assembled chair, and a table with the cutting list in millimeters. Use the information alongside to answer the questions that follow. Okay, so the picture and the information, here they say use the information alongside to answer the questions that follow. So you've got all the information. That is why it's very, very important that you look at the whole picture. Okay, you look at the whole picture and you look at the information that is given so that you can answer the questions. Number 2.1 is write down the length of the props. Write down the length of the props. Now we have to check on the picture, where are we going to find the length of the prop? Where are we going to find the length of the props? Now, if you look at the bottom of these pictures, you can see that there's number of pieces. It says 4. Okay, the description, it says props, and then here they indicate the size in millimeters, but the size, it's in the form of dimensions. In the form of dimensions, it means they indicate the length by the width by the thickness. Length times width times thickness means it's length by width by thickness. So whatever you see here, it means that 750 is the length, that 60 is the width, and then that 18 is the thickness. So the length is 750 millimeters, and then the width is 60 millimeters, and then the thickness of the prop is 18 millimeters. So here they're looking for the length. So from these dimensions, we know that the first one is the length. So the length in this case is 750 millimeters. Okay, you can see no calculations, nothing. It's just a matter of looking at what is given on the picture. Okay, what is given, the pictures and the information. So the pictures and the information will actually help you to find the answers. So 2.1 is just 750 millimeters. That is 2.1. Right, and then number 2.2, still on the very same information, it says convert the thickness of the wooden material. Okay, convert the thickness of the wooden material. So in this case, if we have to look at the thickness, so there is the thickness, it's 18. So the thickness, it's 18. So for this one, we just take 18, which is in millimeters. Okay, convert the thickness. Okay, convert the thickness of the wooden material to centimeters. But you can see that the thickness is given in millimeters, which is 18. But now we convert the millimeters to centimeters. How do you convert from millimeters to centimeters? Okay, boys and girls, you know this. 18 millimeters. How do you convert from millimeters to centimeters? We need to divide by 10. So we take 18 and then we divide it by 10, and then it's 1,8 centimeters. Sorry. So we just take 18, we divide it by 10, then we get 1,8 centimeters. That is how easy these questions are. That is number 2.2. Okay, and then number 2.3, calculate the simplified ratio. Calculate the simplified ratio of the length of the rails to the length of the props. Calculate the simplified ratio. We all know a ratio, but what is important in this case is the order. Okay, the order of the ratio. So we have to start with the length of the rails, and we have to end up with the length of the props. Then now we have to look. We know the length. The length of the roll of the rails is 400, so it's 400. Okay, and the length of the props is 750. So that is 400 is to 750. They say in simplified form. So in simplified form, we can look at this. We can divide by 100. Let's see if we divide by 100. Then if we divide by 100, then we get 400 divided by 100 is 4, and it's 750 divided by 100, we get 7,5. Okay, we get 7,5. Or we could have divided by 10. Okay, so if we divide by 10, we say 400 is to 750, and then we divide by 10, then we get 40 is to 75. This is actually the answer that we're looking for, because we have to divide by the number that goes into 400 and also into 750. So sorry about this one. We're not supposed to divide by 100, we're supposed to divide by 10. 400 divided by 10, we get 40, and 750 divided by 10, we get 75. So the answer is 40 is to 75. The question is just in the simplified ratio. It is also possible that the examiner might say, calculate the unit ratio. Now, if you have to calculate the unit ratio, it means one of these values, okay, when we divide, must be 1. So in this case, it means if we have to divide it further, okay, just for your own enrichment, if we have to write this one as a unit ratio, we can divide by 40. Then we say 40 is to 75. Then we divide by 40, divide by 40. Then I get 40 divided by 40 is 1. Then if I take 75, I divide it by 40. And then I get 1,875. 1,875. 1 is to 1,8. I mean 1 is to 1,875. That is if the examiner would say a unit ratio. But in this case, if they say simplified ratio, it means the answer is 40 is to 75. You can't simplify it further than. Okay, let me see. 40 is to 75. No, I'm wrong. Let's check. Let's check if we can divide by 5. Okay, if I say 40 divided by 5, I get 8. And if I take 75, I divide it by 5, and then I get exactly 15. So this one we can actually divide by 5. So it's 8 is to 50. That is actually the simplified ratio. 8 is to 15. So it means in this case, I could have divided this one. I said 400 divided by 10, and then I divided by 5. So I could have divided by 50. 400 divided by 50, then give me 8, and 750 divided by 50, and then 8, 15. Okay, so I could have divided this by I could have divided this by, what did I say, for 400 divided by 10, and then I divided by, okay, 400 divided by, yeah, I could have divided by 50, sorry. I could have divided by 50, 400 divided by 50, I get 8, 750 divided by 50, I get 15. So that is how we simplify the ratio. Okay, then the next question, it's 2.4. Determine the number of rails needed to construct the back piece. Determine the number of rails needed to construct the back piece. Now, if you look at this on the picture, it is clearly labeled what they mean by rails. So all these parts are rails, okay? Now, but the back piece is this one. So if we have to look at the back piece, how many rails are there? So I see 1, I see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 of them. If I have to count the rails, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 of them. You only needed to count them. There's 8 rails needed to construct the back piece. You just have to make sure that you look at the correct picture. Okay, that was number 2.4. You can see very, very easy. And then the next question, 2.5, write down the probability that the length of some of the props might differ. Write down the probability that the length of some of the props might differ. Okay, if you look on the picture, there's no way it's indicated that maybe a prop or one prop will have a different length. They are all, it is indicated that all of them will have the length of 750. So all of them will have a length of 750. So in this case, when they say write down the probability will be 0. Okay, so 0, or you can say 0%. Okay, so write down the probability that the length of some of the props might differ. So they won't differ because it's not indicated anywhere. So this will be 0 or 0%. That is number 2.5. Okay, the next question. Okay, sorry, number 2.6, I almost skipped that one. Number 2.6, still on the very same question. Show that the space between each rail on the top part of the seat is 10 millimeters. Show that the space between each rail on the top part of the seat is 10 millimeters. Okay, then if we go and look on the pictures, you can see that this is the seat, okay? And then they say we must indicate the spaces. So this is one rail, this is the second one, this is the third one, this is the fourth one. Okay, there are 4 of them there. So what is it? So let me count this 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can see that in this case, from this side of the rail to the other side of the fourth rail is 270, and then we know that all these are given in millimeters. So when we put them next to each other, but remember we put them next to each other and then we leave a space in between. Okay, so it's going to be like this. Let me draw it. So this is the first rail, this is the second one, this is the third one, never mind the sizes, and this is the fourth one. Okay, but you can see according to this, from this point to the other point is 270 millimeters. Okay, but what did we say about the thickness, or sorry, the width? We all know that the width is 60, 60, 60. So this width is 60, this width is 60, this width is 60. Okay, And then if we take the width of this one, we add it with this, we add it with this, we add it with this, we're going to get 60 multiplied by 4. Okay, so 60 multiplied by 4 will give us 240 millimeters. So if we have to put them very close to each other, they would give us a total of 240 millimeters. But when we leave a space in between, then it becomes bigger. It becomes 270. So the spaces in between, the spaces will be in between will be the difference, will be 270 minus 240, and then this will give us 270 minus 240. So I said 60 times 4, and then I got 240, and then it's 270 minus 240, then I get must get 30. So it's 30 millimeters. Okay, but how many spaces are there? There's 1, there's 2, there's 3 spaces. So there's 1, the first space, the second space, and the third space. Remember, even if there are 4 of them, but there's only 1, 2, 3 spaces in between. So we take 30, we divide it by 3, and then we get 10 millimeters. Remember, 30 millimeters is the total of the 3 spaces. And then if we want the space between each rail, we take 30 millimeters, we divide it by 3, and then we get 10 millimeters. Okay, that is how we're supposed to calculate it. It's clearly indicated on the picture that the total is 270, and then the width, okay, how wide each rail is 60 millimeters, but all of them are supposed to give us 240. Um, when we make a space between them, and then we can see that they're actually supposed to be 270. So in this case, it's 10 millimeters. That is the answer for number 2.6. Okay, then activity 3, which was taken from Mpumalanga paper 1, grade 12 prelim 2024. The annexure alongside shows the diagram of the item to be assembled. Use the annexure to answer the questions that follow. Then there you've got a picture, and you also have the information. Different parts or different components are indicated there. So it's Pesto circular dining table, it's assembly instructions. Okay, there's supposed to be instructions there at the bottom, but let us look at the questions. 3.1 is identify the name of part 4. Okay, here you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So number 4 is tabletop. So this one is tabletop. That is the answer for number 3. You can see how easy it is. It was just a matter of looking on the information, or looking at the pictures, or looking at the different parts that are indicated on the picture for you to have the answer. So it's tabletop. And then number 3.2 is determine the number of the pedestal foot pieces needed to complete the item. Okay, determine the number of the pedestal foot pieces needed to complete the table. So you can see that in this case, the pedestal foot, there must be 4 pieces. So it's 4 pieces. You can either read it there. Remember, this is number 1. Number 2 is pedestal foot, and then they've got a picture there. And then how many are needed? There's only 4 needed. Or maybe even if you look at the complete table, you can see that there's actually 4 there. But it would actually be much better if you look at the information that is indicated there, especially with the component checklist. So this one, the answer is just 4. That is the answer for number 3.2. Then number 3.3, it's give the name of the item to be assembled. In other words, the final product. The final product in this case is just a circular dining table, but we can write the full name the first circular table, circular dining table. It is actually safe to write the whole name as indicated. Give the name of the item to be assembled. It is a table, but we have to write the name of the table in full. Okay, then activity 4, which is taken from Free State Paper 1. That was a prelim paper. The Central University of Technology wants to replace the old students' desks in their student accommodation centers with new ones. The Central University of Technology wants to replace the old student desks in their student accommodation centers with new ones. The annexure alongside shows the item list that comes in box of a student desk. Use the annexure to answer the questions that follow. Then, very, very important that you read or you look at the picture that is given, right? And you also look at the parts. In this case, the steps are also very important. They've indicated step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, okay, and the final product, okay? Remember, in some cases, when instructions are given, they might be given in the form of pictures or they might be given in the form of words. So it's very important that if the steps are given in words and then you can read, okay, and be able to relate, or if they are given in the form of pictures, you can be able to interpret what is indicated on a picture. Right, so for this one, number 4.1, determine the total number of washers needed to assemble the student desk. Determine the total number of washers needed to assemble the student desk. So very important, we have to look at the pictures, or we also have to look at the parts that are indicated there or the item list. Here we've got the item list. So we have to check. The first one shows the back stretcher top unit, the front rail, middle rail, and then we've got flat washer. Then it says flat washer. The flat washer, it means we are looking for the number of washers. So we've got a flat washer, which is 9 pieces. So it's 9. That is the first one, but it might not be the only one, so we need to check. The next one is spring washer, 8 pieces. So we've got spring washers, 8 pieces. So all in all is going to be 9 plus 8. So 9 plus 8 will give us a total of 17. Or let's check. Let's check before we conclude that there are 17. Okay, there we've got side frames. We've got tapered wood screw, 7 pieces. Wood screw, 11 pieces. Head cap bolt, 9 pieces. And then the others which are not clear there, but we assume that these are the only ones. 9 plus 8, so it's 17. So these are the only washers. 9 plus 8, which is the flat washers, plus the spring washers. There are 17 of them in total. Okay, then number 4.2, you can see we've got the end product. They say give one use of a student desk. What can you think of? Okay, any use of a student desk. Okay, student can use the student desk to study. Okay, or they can put their word books there while they are studying. So use of a student desk is to study. Right, or any other relevant answer. Then number 4.3, is write down the item using a symbol from step 2, which is not listed under the item list. So number 4.3, they say write down the item. So write down the item using a symbol from step 2. Okay, then this is step number 2. This is step number 2. They say the item which is not listed under the item list. Now, under the item list, we can see that we've got F, item F, item D, item E. Okay, so then we've got B plus C. Okay, so in this case, they indicated E, they indicated D, they indicated E, and then they also indicated G. But if you look at all this, G is not indicated. So write down the item using a symbol. So the symbol in this case will be G. So we've got B, we've got D, we've got E, we've got G. But when we look at the item list, we've got F, we've got D, we've got E. Okay, we've got B, we've got B plus C, and then from there, G is not indicated. So this will be letter G. Okay, and then number 4.4. Write down the number of screws used to attach the top unit in step number 3. Write down the number of screws used to attach the top unit in step number 3. Okay, you can see that in step number 3, they have actually indicated the items there going down. These are the screws. Okay, so they want to know the number of screws, okay, used to attach the top unit in step number 3. So this is the top unit, is just the table, it's upside down. So we just need to count. So in this case, I see 1, I see 2, I see 3, I see 4, then I see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I hope the picture is very clear on your side as well, but I see 10 of them. So there are 10 screws. You can just write 10 or you write 10 screws. That is if I count. If I count there, I see 10 of them, 10 screws. Okay, that is number 4.4. Okay, then number 4.5. One apartment has 4 rooms. Okay, one apartment has 4 rooms. Calculate the number of new desks needed for 15 apartments if one desk is placed in every room. Okay, so in this case, there's 1 room. Okay, so and it just calculate the number of needed for 15 apartments. Okay, so 1 desk in 1 room. Okay, so it's going to be 1 room, but now we've got apartments. How many apartments has got 4 rooms? So this will be 4 rooms, and this is actually an apartment. In this 1 apartment, there are 4 rooms. Then they must put a table in each room. Okay, but how many apartments are here? There's about 15 apartments. So 15 apartments. 1 apartment has 4 rooms. So this is an apartment. Okay, it has got 4 rooms and there's about 15 apartments. So in this case, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4 times 15. Then we get 60. Okay, so there's going to be the number of new desks will be 60. The number of new desks will be 60. Okay, so that is activity number 4. Then the next activity, let us look at this. Activity number 5, it's the diagram alongside show, or the diagrams alongside show a 2-door book cabinet and a list of the hardware needed for its assembly. The steps for assembling the book cabinet are provided on the next slide. Study the steps given on annexure carefully as well as the diagram alongside and use them to answer the questions that follow. Okay, and this was taken from a GP, Gauteng Province 2024 prelim. Okay, there you got the information, so make sure that you study the picture carefully, then so that you can be able to answer the questions. Okay, then this one is still the very same information. Okay, the diagram along the steps. Then study the steps given on the annexure carefully as well as the diagram alongside and use them to answer the questions that follow. 5.1 instructions for step 1 and step 2 are as follows. So it means in this case you are given step number 1. In step number 1 they say fasten the front and bottom panels with the cam pins and cam locks. Assemble it upside down. That is step number 1. And then step number 2, when they explain, they say fasten the back panel to the bottom panel with the cam pins and cam locks. So this one, they've indicated the pictures and they've also indicated the explanations of the steps. Step number 1, okay, this is step number 1 and this is step number 2. Now we have to look at step number 3, step number 4, and step number 5. You can see that there we've got step 6 and 9. I mean step 6 to 9, but in this case, we are only interested in you explaining the set directions to complete step number 3 to 5. So let us look at step number 3. If you look at step number 3, you can see that in this case, from this one, they have actually attached the right and then the left panels. So this one, it means for step 3, it's attach left and right panels. Okay, so in step number 3, we have to attach the left and the right panels. Okay, so there they are attached. And then we go to step number 4. So at step number 4, the left and right panels are already attached. So for step number 4, we'll say, if you look at this one, is attach to the surface with, okay, so this one is attach the top surface. It must be the attach the top surface. So it means it's this one. Attach the top surface with cam locks. Cam pin and dowels. Okay, so for this one we just need to attach the top surface. That will be step number 4. And then now we still have step number 5. Okay, then you can see that step number 5, you just need to insert the shelves. But before you insert the shelves, remember, you have to insert the pin. Remember, when you insert that shelf, there must be pins that are going to hold the shelf. So you can't just insert it. Where is it going to stand on? So it means there must be pins. So you insert pins to hold the shelf. Okay, so you need to insert pins to hold the shelf, and then after that you insert the shelf or you put the shelf on top of the pins. Okay, so I'm going to indicate it here. So this one is insert pins to hold or insert the pins that will hold the shelf. Okay, insert the pins that will hold the shelf, and then after that you insert the shelf and make sure that the shelf rests on the pins. Okay, so in this case, personally, we don't actually expect you to write the instructions exactly as they are. So they must be close to what I've explained here. Okay, and remember, you don't also have to use very, very long sentences. Okay, as long as your explanation can be a very short, very short and understandable, that will be acceptable. Okay, so but as long as you can explain, that is what is important. So in this case, we only had to explain step number 3, and we also had to explain step number 4 and also step number 5. You just have to explain what you see there. Okay, and then obviously what you see there must be relevant or must be able to be seen on the picture. And that is activity number 5.1. Okay, then activity 5.2. It's give one reason why a helper is listed under tools needed. Okay, so in this case, they say tools needed. They say a Phillips screwdriver, and then they also say a helper. So give one reason why a helper is listed under the tools needed. So maybe to help in carrying the items. Okay, so in this case, or any relevant answer that you can think of. Okay, because usually if you have to assemble especially this type of a product, it means you'll need an assistance. Okay, so maybe in carrying assistance, or maybe if they have to ask for a screwdriver, and then the helper will have to maybe go and get it. Okay, that is number 5.2. And then number 5.3 is identify a tool that can be used to turn the cam pins and cam locks. Okay, identify a tool that can be used to turn the cam pins and cam locks. So if we have to identify, actually, if we go back to our pictures, the information which was given, it was not indicated. So for this one, you can think of any tool that can be used. So in this case, identify a tool that can be used to turn the, so you can say a screwdriver, or some can say a drill, and so on, anything that you can think of. So any tool that will be relevant in this case can be mentioned. Okay, then number 5.4, activity 5.4, there is the diagram alongside, shows a 3D view of the cabinet, and then the length is 700 millimeters, the width is 350 millimeters, and the height is 690 millimeters. Use the information given above to calculate the total surface area in, this must be centimeter squared or square centimeters, of the outside of the bookcase, including the bottom part. You may use the following formula. Total surface area equals to 2 in brackets length times width. Okay, and then the second part is 2 open bracket length times height close the bracket plus 2 open bracket width times height close the bracket. So we need to check, they say total surface area. The formula for calculating this total surface area is given. Then what we need to do is just to substitute. But now we need to be careful here because they say the answer must be in centimeter squared, or it must be in square centimeters. So it is always easier to do the conversion first. Okay, for the answer to be in centimeter squared, for the answer to be in centimeter squared, it means the length, the width, the length, the height, the width, and the height, all of them must be in centimeters. Okay, now let us look at this. The 700 millimeters, if we convert it to centimeters, how do we convert to how do we convert from millimeters to centimeters? We did one sum before, so we divide by 10. So 700 millimeters, we divide it by 10, so it's 700 divided by 10, it becomes 70 centimeters. And then the 350, we also take 350, we divide it by 10, and it becomes 35 centimeters. We take the height, which is 690, we divide it by 10, it becomes 69 centimeters. Now all of them are now in centimeters. We can do the substitution. This will be easier. So we say 2 open bracket, and then is the length, which is 70, and then we multiply by the width, which is 35, plus 2 open bracket. The length is still 70, and then the height is 69. Okay, let's make sure that we do the substitution correctly. And then it's plus 2 open bracket. According to the information, the width is 35 and the height is 69. Okay, so we have to make sure that we put the correct value at the correct position. That is the substitution. So and then after this, we can simplify each part. So the first one is 70 times 35. Then we get 2,450. This is 2,450. Then I multiply it by 2, and it gives me 4,900. 4,900. I don't have to indicate the unit because I know that in the end, my answers will be in, or my answer will be in centimeters squared. The second part is 70 times 69, or you can still say 2 times 70 times 69. So if I start by the ones in bracket, I say 70 times 69, then I get 4,830, then I multiply it by 2, then I get 9,660. Okay, I hope you are also using your calculator there to check if my calculations are correct. And then the next one is 35 multiplied by 69. And then remember, we have to multiply it by 2. Then I get 4,830. 4,830. So let me just verify 70 by 69. I got 4,830. Then times 2. Then I got 9,660. That one is 35 by 69. And then it's times 2. Then I get 4,830. Now I can add up everything. 4,900 plus 9,660 plus 4,830. Then this is 19,930. 19,000, sorry, 19,390. 4,900 plus 9,660 plus 4,830. Then I get the answer in centimeters squared. It's very important that we need to indicate the unit there. 19,310. That is the answer for number 5.4. Okay, activity 6. This is taken from Free State Prelim 2023. It must be paper 2, not paper 1, sorry. Okay. Okay, so it must be paper 2. We say, right, okay, Mr. January imports bar stools that he sells again for a profit. The imported bar stools come in boxes with an assembly diagram. The annexure alongside shows the assembly diagram for one of these chairs. Use the information in the annexure to answer the questions that follow. 6.1, write down the function of the part labeled as F within the context. Okay, so now we have to look here. We've got A, we've got B, we've got C, we've got D, we've got E, we've got F. Then there they've indicated a tool. Okay, so they want to know what is the function of this tool in this context. So this one is to tighten the screws. Okay, to tighten the screws will be the answer for number 6.1. That is the function of the part labeled F. Okay, then number 6.2 is match each of the descriptions for A, B, C. Match each of the descriptions for A, B, and C. So there's A. Okay, sorry. It says match each of the description for A, B, and C below to steps 1 to 3 on the diagram to explain how to assemble the bar stool. Write only the correct order of letter A to C next to your number. Okay, so if it's A, it means we have to indicate the step number. According to the explanation, what step number correspond with a letter A there? So letter A says push the seat and pedestal with footrest combination onto the shock absorber. Then if you look at all this, push the seat. So there's the direction. The direction indicate that this is being pushed. So this one will be step number 1. So this will be step 1. No, sorry, step 3. It's this step. Okay. So the step where a seat is being pushed and the pedestal with footrest combination onto the shock absorber. Okay, then B, remove the cap from the shock absorber and press the shock absorber into the base. Okay, remove the cap from the shock absorber and press the shock absorber into the base. So this is the base. If you look at the parts there, this is the base. Okay, and then in this case, it means B corresponds with step number 1. Step 1. Okay, and then the next one is fasten the pedestal with the footrest with screws to the seat. So that will be step number 2. Step number 2 is this one. That is where they fasten the pedestal with the footrest with screws to the seat. So this is an indication that these are being fastened there. So that is the answer for number 6.2. Okay, 6.3. The shock absorber allows the bar stool to be adjusted upwards or downwards. Okay, upwards or downwards. Give one reason why a bar stool must be adjustable. Okay, so the reason will be it must be adjustable so that it can accommodate different people according to their height. Okay, to accommodate different people according to their height. So obviously, if I'm tall, and then I'll make sure that I adjust it in such a way that I'll be able to sit comfortably. So, and if I was sitting on the chair and then I'm tall and somebody shorter comes, then that person will have to readjust so that the very same person can sit comfortably so on the chair. So it's just to accommodate different people according to their height. Okay, so activity 7, it's taken from Prelim Northern Cape 2023. Panel doors always provide a decorative look to homes. The annexure alongside shows the assembly diagram as well as completed view of a 6-panel wooden door. All the measurements on the completed view are in centimeters. Okay, so there we've got the information assembly diagram of a panel door, and then we've got the completed assembly of a panel door. That is the end product. But there you've got different parts. Okay, it's use the information on the annexure to answer the questions that follow. 7.1, name the piece in the assembly diagram which will represent the length of the door. Okay, name the piece in the assembly diagram which represent the length of the door. So in this case, under assembly diagram, the height or the length of the door, it's represented by this part. Okay, and then the name of this part is style. Okay, as indicated there, that is the name of the piece. So it's indicated, it's style, number 7.1. Right, then number 7.2, calculate the values of A and B in the assembly diagram. Again, in the very same, okay, now in the assembly diagram. Okay, calculate the values of A and B in the assembly diagram, or it should have been the completed assembly of a panel door, because that is where I see A and B. So there's A and then this is B. How do we find the value of A? But you can see that in this case, from this point to the other point, it must be 65,89. And we've got this 28.5 plus A plus 28.5 must give us 65,89. So in this case, it means the value of A will be, we take the whole value 65,89. So 65,89, and then we subtract 28.5, and we subtract another 28.5. So to find the value of A, we say from this point to that point, everything is 65,89. But to find the value of A, we know that this plus that must give us 65,89. So therefore, let's take 65,89, we subtract 28.5, and we also subtract 28.5, and then that will give us the value of A. If I take my calculator, I say 65.89 minus 28.5 minus 28.5. Then I get 8.89. So this is 8.89. Is a value of A. We know that everything is in centimeters, so I can just indicate that A is 8,89 centimeters, or just 8,89. It will be fine. And then to find the value of B, you can see that to find the value of B, okay, the value of B is this part and that part. Okay, now to make it easier, we know that if we take this part plus this one plus this one, they will give us 91,89. Okay, so what we can do for this one, we can say, okay, if I take 91,89, if I take 91,89, I subtract 65,89. Okay, if I take 91,89, I subtract 65,89. If I take the whole of this side and then I subtract this, I'm going to be left with this space and this one. I'm going to be left with B and B. So the remaining space will be the space of B and the space of the other B. So I say 91.89 minus 65.9, and then I get 25. Let me see if I did it correctly. 91.89 minus 65.89. I could see that I missed something. 91.89 minus, this must be 89 minus 65.89. So both of them are 0.89. Then I get 26. But remember, this 26 centimeters, it's now for the two spaces, is for that B and the other B. So it means I must divide them equally. So I'll say the value of B will be 26 centimeters divided by 2, so which is 13. So this will be 13, and this one will also be 13. Then you will see that if you say 13 plus 65.89 plus 13, it must give you 91.89. So that is how we supposed to find the value of B. Okay, then number 7.3, it's 7.3 is which panels in the completed view are the largest? Okay, which panels in the completed view are the largest? Now, if we look at between these two, we can see that, okay, if you look at the picture, they might look like they are equal. Is for the width wise, they are equal. But now, if we have to check the height or the length, you can see that this one is 61.5 and this one is 60.3. Okay, 61.5 and this one is 60.3. So the largest ones are P3 and P4. Panel 3 and panel 4. Panel 3 and panel 4. Okay, so you just have to look at the measurements for you to get to the correct answer. Okay, then 7.4. Okay, write down the number of wooden dowels required to assemble the panel door. Write down the number of wooden dowels required to assemble the panel door. So in this case, if we look at the wooden dowels, you can see here it's indicated. Then it's all this, okay, parts that you see here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But it's not only on this panel or on this part. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then it's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then I've got 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, so you can see there are duals there, and then all in all there are 22. So that is 22. That is number 7.4. Okay, then number 7.5, round the width of the bottom rail to a whole number. Okay, write down the width of the bottom rail. So in this case, this is the bottom rail. The width of this bottom rail, we'll see it here, which is 22.8. So it's 22.8. Then if we've got 22.8, then now we need to round it off to the nearest whole number. It means it's 23. So that is 23 centimeters. Okay, so you can see that from the beginning, from all these type of questions, you can see that these are very, very, very easy marks. It's just a matter of looking at the items or looking at the pictures, and then you answer the questions looking at the information that is given. Sometimes, in most cases, you don't even need to scratch your head. So it's just a matter of looking at the pictures that are given. Like in this case, it's 22.8, which is clearly indicated there. It is actually up to you to make sure that you interpret the given information correctly. Right, then That was number 7.5, 23 centimeters. And then calculate the length of wood needed to make all the modules. Okay, so this one is calculate the length of the wood needed to calculate. So they are indicated. So this is the first one. So it's one, the first million, and then the second one, and then the third one. So the question is calculate the total length. So the total length, it means now we must take the length of this, okay, which is 60,3, and then this one is 61.5. Okay, then this one is, this one here, it's that one, which is 20.3. So plus 20.3. So 60.3 plus 61.5 plus 20.3. Okay, let me double check. 60.3, okay, which is this one, plus 61.3, and then plus 20.3. Okay, let me do it as 60.3 plus 61.5 plus 20.3. Then I'm getting a 142.1 centimeters. So that is the length of the wood needed. Okay, now quickly the summary of today's lesson is, remember, we had to look at how to use instructions and assembly diagrams containing words or pictures, and we also had to look at how to complete tasks using the instructions, pictures given, or and explain what the instructions mean and represent. We also looked at how to demonstrate an understanding of the symbols and notations used on assembly diagrams. And we also had to look at how to learn how to follow instructions when assembling a unit. Okay, so that is the summary of today's lesson. Use instruction and assembly diagrams containing words or pictures. Complete a task using instructions or pictures given to explain what the instructions mean and represent, and also to how to demonstrate an understanding of the symbols and notations used on assembly diagrams. And then also on how to learn, we also looked at how to learn how to follow instructions when assembling a unit. That is basically the summary of today's lesson. Boys and girls, I hope you have learned a lot in this lesson, but remember, this is the section or the subsection that you cannot afford to lose marks. As you could see that in each and every activity, in each and every question, 99.9% of the answers were actually indicated in the picture or were indicated in the diagram. So it's very, very important that whenever you are given this type of questions, you thoroughly study the pictures that are given so that you can be able to answer the questions. So that is the summary of today's lesson. So unfortunately, time is not on our side. And then this will bring us to the end of today's lesson. We were supposed to do homework, but unfortunately we don't have enough time. But what I can indicate to you is, please remember to stay tuned for next week's lesson. So next week's lesson will focus on the following. Next week is the 30th of July. And then remember, the time is from 14:30 until 1600. So the focus is going to be on the floor plans, elevation, and design plans. Remember, that is according to your ATP. So next week, the focus will be on floor plans, elevation, and design plans. So thank you very much for watching today's lesson. and then I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.